5562. From traditional funeral services to memorials to direct cremation, pre-needs, and more. Call Charlotte White at Exquisite Family Mortuary for Southern hospitality in Southern California. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. Exquisite Family Mortuary is located nearby in Inglewood, California. Exquisite Family Mortuary, where your loved one becomes our loved one.
Could never buy your love, no.
I'm just wondering if
You can't buy me. Money can't buy love.
never buy your love. Could never buy your love. Nah, could never buy your love.
But I need new friends. I wanted to buy a Benz. Trip around the world. Yo, an oyster full of pearls. Rocks and new clothes. Hot shoes, cleanings for my nose. A Rolex full of gold. Man, anything can be sold.
Happy Wednesday. Welcome in. You are locked in to KBLA Talk 1580. Shout out to that Ralph Trez band from the, what is this? Stacey Dash, Damon Wayans. Mo Money soundtrack. That's what it is. Yep, Mo Money. And of course, that is so on theme. It's scary. Andy not only matched the song with the theme and topic of the night, he matched it from a movie that Damon Wayans, the person who said the quote, is in. But we're going to get into that in a minute. You are locked into your entertainment news update with Jill Munroe. I hope that your Wednesday is sliding by. You know, you're getting through. This is your midweek dose of the news that matters with a little flavor on top, of course. With me, your front row seat to the culture, right? The mic is hot. The receipts are ready. So we are going to get into it tonight. What is on the menu? Of course, we're breaking down that story that I said. Damon Wayans has said that success and racial isolation go hand in hand. So we're going to get into that. We're also checking the pulse on Target's foot traffic after the DEI decision gone wrong and see how that's working out. And once again, Ja Morant, he might be bringing the wrong type of attention to him with a gesture that he made during the game that could cost him more than just a suspension. Plus, it is Wednesday, and you know we are going to get all up in the business with my guy Damon Haley. We've got questions and answers, and you know we're going to dive into the topics that are important to you. But first, you know, we got to get into those conversation starters. Here's a couple of things that had the streets buzzing today. So TikTok, you know, it's on the chopping block once again. April 4th is the date, but it looks like there might be a savior in the form of Amazon. So Amazon wants in on the TikTok takeover. I believe it's actually April 5th that the deadline is. So President Trump gave ByteDance 75 days to sell TikTok, their U.S. operations rather, or face a permanent ban. So Amazon submitted a bid this week, and they are joining Oracle and Blackstone as potential suitors. And there are, you know, about 170 million U.S. users that TikTok serves. And, you know, previously ByteDance has said that they do not want to sell any part of the app. So we're going to have to see what happens. But the users, they kind of revolted prior to making their voices heard. So we'll see what ultimately comes of this. And Megan Thee Stallion, once again, I said this is the year that artists, athletes, and entertainers are striking back. She has a suit against blogger Milagro. She runs, I believe her site is called On Site, and she has a podcast. And Megan's legal team said that Milagro hasn't fully complied with requests in the defamation and cyber stalking case. So they are asking for texts and communications, and they are saying that reportedly she is deficient in turning these over. And there's a hearing happening this week, and according to court reporter Megan Cuniff, you know her as Megan the Reporter, she reported on Megan's case with Tory. This is, getting messier. All these rulings happen. So we'll see what develops with that. And of course, shout out to first ballot Hall of Famer Carmelo Anthony. It's been announced that he will be headed to the Basketball Hall of Fame, the number 3 overall pick from the 2003 NBA draft, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, 10 All-Star appearances, spent most of his time with the Nuggets and Knicks, spent a little bit of time here in the Lakers in LA. We won't get too much into that, but it happened. Shout out to Melo. Andy?
Gotta acknowledge that college run.
Oh, Syracuse, right? He did it with the big orange men back in the day, freshman, knocked it out the park. So shout out to Melo. Salute to number 7. When we come forward, we're going to get into the topic of, is being wealthy isolating as a Black person? All of that on the other side. You're locked in with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Your ride with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving Black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% Black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of Black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of Black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting. On Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominic DePrima, Nee Cordelai Corte, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate Day 100 since the wildfires flared up. And we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting Town Hall. Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. This is a community call to action, brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Attention. If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance. And you better watch out, because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.org.
Now back to more entertainment news with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back in. You were locked in with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. So you know how we get down here. If at any point during this conversation you want to jump in, give us a call, 800-920-1580. You can also hit us up on social media, KBLA 1580. That includes the YouTube chat, which is already in effect. And of course, me personally, I am at Stiletto Jill. Holla at me. Say hello. Let me know what's on your mind, how you feel about the show. All right, so we are going to get into some things. It is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays, we get all up in the business with strategist, author, entrepreneur, co-owner of Glow and Flow Beauty and Slay Hair, which is available in Target. We're going to get into that. Damon Haley is in the building with us. Welcome back to the show, Damon. How are you?
Oh, thanks again. I'm having a great day.
You're having a great day. We love to hear that. So let's get into some things. So Damon Wayans, he recently appeared on Club Shay Shay. That is low-key or Wendy Williams or Barbara Walters, something of that nature, a mix of it. I'm not saying that with any shade at all. Really, I'm saying it with reference. Actually, he is right now the source, the place, the where you go to get your message out, right? And everybody's clamoring for a spot. That is the reality of where we are in April of 2025. We'll see how long it lasts. And that, again, is no shade in that. So Damon Wayans, he's on Papa's House. We've been talking about the Wayans a great deal over the past couple of months. They were honored at the NAACP Image Awards. Damon and his son Damon Jr. have the current show on CBS. We're waiting to see if it gets picked up for season 2. And, in his interview, he talked about on why success gets whiter as you climb the ladder. So this is a hard truth, basically. What he said is that, the more money you make, the less black people you see. He didn't stutter when he said it. He broke it down further and said success pulls you into new zip codes, new social circles, and a financial bubble. So we're going to hear what Damon Wayans had to say, and then we're going to talk about it with DH Baby.
The more money you make, the less black people you see. Right? Money brings you into a new category. You move to a different house in a different neighborhood, and you get different friends, your money, people that come around you to help you make the money and maintain your money and make more money. The complexion changes. You know what I mean? That's what I love about like LeBron. He's got he got
Mav and he got Randy and he got Rich.
Yeah.
So he kept that group.
Yes.
Around him.
Yeah.
But unless you have that group, because like you say, the higher you climb, the less you're going to see. And you're like, okay, well, they don't treat me that way, so it's gone.
And it's divide and conquer, At a certain point, they sit you down, Beyonce's father. All right, we got it from here. The Jacksons. All right, Joe.
We got it.
We got it from here. You sit back and go, what? Venus and Serena, we got them. But and if you want them to be successful, you have to kind of let it happen, and then they hit new heights, but you become a liability. You know what I mean? As the parent. Well, where were you those nights in the rain when we were hitting balls?
So there's a lot to unpack there. Let's start off with something I thought was interesting, because he points out that when talent gets to a certain point, then the machine, the people, come in and take over. And a lot of times that increases said individual or talent's value, puts them into spaces where they can make more and are exposed to different things. But as he also pointed out, at the expense of sometimes those people that had been there early on, especially if it's family related, or, a lot of times even not, if it is someone that is black and is coming up with the artist or individuals. So what are your thoughts around not only the higher you go, the less black it is? Is that a choice, or is it just the reality of the situation?
Well, it's two sides of it. I think that the higher you do go, we know statistically it's just less black people. So if you're talking about having a certain level of expertise or being in certain rooms, being able to be negotiating, know the business of, say, sports, entertainment, media, those things, we're just not getting there as much as our white counterparts, so to speak, to put it nicely. So there is a truth to that. I mean, I matriculated through Berkeley, and my first job, it wasn't as many black people there. I got an MBA. And then when I got another job, it wasn't that many black people there. When I got to Nike and went to the corporate headquarters, it wasn't that many black people there.
Yeah.
So
Facts.
it just happens like that. And I think that in his space, absolutely. I'm pretty sure that all the on talent, say, of In Living Color, be doing camera operators and the whole machinery around it and the network, probably all white folks. Not a lot of black folks there, not a lot of black executives, right? When any movie that he did, it probably, if he was in front of the screen, Major Payne and the one he did with Bruce Willis and all that kind of stuff, it's just like that. And we're not getting those skills. We're not getting those that experience. And so I think that part is absolutely true. On the flip side, it is a choice, though, with your personal life. Like I get, there's no, at least here in Hollywood, LA County, I don't know if it's a place where somebody like that can buy a home that levels up to his income. So he would have to go to Beverly Hills or Holmby Hills and or Calabasas and all of that, where we're just not there. It was different, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when you couldn't easily go to those places. But now that you can, and money and all of that, I get that piece. But the socialization is, you can still socialize with anybody. I still hang out with my boys from the Washington Prep. I still hang out with my boys that I grew up with. So,
but let me ask you, because it's a very real thing, I think no matter the income level, when you move up or expand, right? Do the ones that you hang out with, have they evolved along with you? Because sometimes what happens a lot of times, what we see in sports and entertainment, right? The crew can't come because the crew doesn't have a skill set, or they haven't figured out who they are as individuals to have a job outside of, oh, you want me to drive today? Oh, you got to, things like that. So is that also a deterrent sometimes, because you see, and we're going to talk about someone like Ja Morant a little later, who hasn't let go of his people, his crew, and that may be to his detriment. Not necessarily saying that they're leading him, but they also aren't, at least on appearances, advising or helping to cover him and guide him in a different direction. So I think that is a unique balance that Black people, as they elevate, have to balance. It's something, it's almost a trope that we see depicted a lot of times in TV and film when we look at the upwardly mobile Black person in the film. A lot of times they have a family member that is still tied to the hood, that is, dragging them back in some sort of way.
Well, I think, let's not pick on just Black folks. We talking about it, but that's with anybody. Like that's with anybody.
Facts.
There are a lot more poor people, hood people, rednecks, all that kind of stuff there. So that happens. That really and truly happens. I think the difference is your day-to-day, like if I have a high-paying job, I'm a C-suite person, not a mega star, a C-suite person, I'm spending 40 hours a week pretty much around white folks and not with Black folks. And so maybe that changes as I mature and get older, that I'm just riding with those people that I work with. I'm riding with my neighbors because we're at the park and Little League and soccer and all of that.
Because it's like this, right? Like if you want to, because sometimes your tastes change too as you're introduced to things. So if you have picked up golf, but your friend can't afford the clubs, or something like that, or a good pair, or the membership for the day pass to get into the golf club, or things like that. Aren't those the little things that start to pull at the threads of friendships in situations like this that can sometimes we find ourselves on the other side? Like we can have targeted moments like, holidays or barbecues and still make that connection. But when, on the weekend, if you are going to go for a round of golf, or you want to go get juice at Erewhon because you just found this, what I'm saying? Those type of little things start to separate.
And I agree with it 1,000%. It just happens. You just grow in different directions. You grow apart, not good, bad, right, or wrong. But he said it, the fact of he talked about money management. He talked about career advancement. He talked about the people he's around, during the day. He talked about neighbors. All that stuff is true. And you still think of what we think of the Wayans, and we think of, all the 10 of them or what have you, that you think that's a guy that still hangs out around black people. But it isn't. That's what he's saying. It's for him. And a lot of us really don't. And I say us, as a people, it's just like that. And I don't think it's malicious. I just think it's kind of inertia. It's just what some of us weave into, and then don't support a lot of the quote unquote black stuff for whence you came, because you are so lost in another community that suffers.
And that's what I think is important. I think that is what's missing, because if, as we pointed out, there are some things that are going to cause separation when it becomes about class as opposed to just, where you came from or those things that connect. But I think that you should make an effort to want to stay tapped in to your roots. And I know the arguments against it, right? We just that is the wrong word, acknowledged on Monday the death of Nipsey Hussle, who wanted to stay rooted to his community, and it was to his detriment. You think about back in the day, I remember in the 90s hearing about that Ice Cube used to live in Baldwin Hills. And I don't know if this is facts, but this is the story, that his house got robbed. And that is why he made the decision to move out. You think about Eazy-E when he was still living, even Snoop Dogg at one time, they all moved far out because as much as we love them in the neighborhood or where they came, there's also that envy factor. And so, sometimes it becomes a necessity, even if you're not, coming from that type of lifestyle, let's say.
Right. But, like I said, that's just a money thing, because most of your organized crime is not black people.
Facts.
so you live
facts.
somewhere and it's organized crime, it's not black folks.
Well, what do you think about this? Because there's this conversation a lot. I know that it comes up as far as publicists and red carpets that I attend, that sometimes a lot of your top talent that may not necessarily stop for the outlets that are placed at the end of the carpet, they are sometimes represented by people that don't look like us. And people have questions why, as people evolve and advance, they don't utilize us. Now, we heard it mentioned about opportunities, but what about, what happened with Rich Paul? You can think Maverick Carter, how they not interned, but I guess kind of interned. They mentored, or what did they do?
Hey,
their way
I think that we shouldn't always. I used to say, you got to take Michael Jordan off the board. When it comes to this, you got to take LeBron off the board. He did a great job by saying, "These are my boys, train them." So yes, Nike put them on payroll, and they had
apprenticeships.
Access.
That's the word I was looking for, because they weren't. They were kind of apprentice. They had a job, paid, but were learning on the job.
Get my boys going, get them in the rooms, teach them up. Rich was at CAA. So not a lot of people do that. So LeBron, kudos to him and Mav and all that kind of stuff. But that's an exception and not the rule. Most just go along with the flow. And the flow says, like he said, hey, Beyonce, you're at a certain level. Pops, we got this. Usher was another one. Moms, we got this. Joe Jackson, we got this. That's just the business of the business. But when you talk about your choice to spend free time, that's different. So I know for a fact that many of us go away, do what we're doing, but we still come back to that which is important. And so if it's important to you, you still support and have the support of the black community like you did when you were coming up. Because in Living Color, that was for black folks.
Right, facts.
And so, why wouldn't you come back to that, or why wouldn't you fight for that unless you've grown out of it and it's not important to you anymore. And so I know a ton of, right now, whoever the best basketball or football black kid is, he's probably not going to school in his neighborhood. at 14.
He's going to a private
we
school.
Lost
right,
him. We
right.
lost him.
We don't have that inner city pipeline anymore like we used to.
So you can't blame him at 30 because his formative years and all that stuff, he was taught doing something else. Now his teaching, we keep that out of the conversation. But if you just look at that, why wouldn't he not gravitate to where he was born and raised, or to a different set of friends that he went to elementary or middle school with? And I think it's the same way particularly for our athletes and for our entertainers. They make so much money for other people that the other people will say, come on our side, we'll embrace you. You don't even need that. Unless you're strong-willed, you say you don't need it, and then you don't engage.
Well, it's a lot to unpack there. When we come forward, we're going to get into this Target situation. The numbers say, the boycott may have worked, but did it? We're going to talk about it, get into all of those details. You were locked in with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580, News, Traffic, and Sports on the other side.
That's right.
You're in the know with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. President Trump calls today Liberation Day as he launches global tariffs, claiming it'll boost U.S. jobs. But critics warn it could raise prices, hitting black communities already facing economic pressure. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams' federal corruption case has been dismissed for good. A judge dropped the charges with prejudice, meaning they cannot be refiled. The Justice Department told prosecutors to drop the case. Black Senator Cory Booker is recovering after a record-breaking 25-hour speech protesting President Trump's policies. He spoke out against tariffs and efforts to dismantle the Department of Education, calling the nation, quote, in crisis, end quote. And Reverend Al Sharpton kicked off the National Action Network's annual convention in New York City, saying it's more needed than ever as civil rights gains are at risk. The event brings together leaders to tackle issues impacting Black Americans. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
It's slow moving in Griffith Park. This is the 5 southbound. Delays leaving the 134 in stretches all the way to the 605. Very slow in downtown LA with a stall on the 110 northbound before 5th Street. Middle lane is blocked. Delays are backing up away from Adams out of South LA. Southbound slowing leaving the 101 all the way to Manchester Avenue. Riverside, a crash on the 91 eastbound at Central off to the shoulder. Delays leaving Van Buren. And in Orange, a crash on the 55 northbound past Chapman's on the shoulder. Delays from the 22.
Since the dawn of baseball, countless players have heard the call of destiny. Witness the hills of the game in ballparks nationwide. Get your tickets today at MLB.com/tickets. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Here's the major question facing the UCLA women's basketball team as they prepare for their Final Four matchup Friday against Connecticut. If the game comes down to decisions and adjustments, can UCLA coach Corey Close outcoach Gina Auriemma? On paper, the coaching battle looks like a mismatch. This is the first time Close has taken a team to the Final Four. Friday's game represents the 24th time Auriemma has led UConn to the Final Four. Auriemma has won 11 national titles at UConn and has had 6 undefeated seasons. Auriemma's experience with championships on the line is part of the reason why UConn is an 8.5-point favorite. How Close handles this pressure-packed moment could be a deciding factor for UCLA in their first Final Four appearance. UCLA and UConn tip off at 6 p.m. Friday night, live coverage on ESPN. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At Exquisite Family Mortuary, we know how overwhelming it can be planning a meaningful farewell for your loved one. Secure your peace of mind by calling Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. From traditional funeral services to memorials to direct cremation, pre-needs, and more. Call Charlotte White at Exquisite Family Mortuary for Southern hospitality in Southern California. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. Exquisite Family Mortuary is located nearby in Inglewood, California. Exquisite Family Mortuary, where your loved one becomes our loved one.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
To let that Prince rock for a little bit. Welcome back in. You were locked in with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. Of course, you are here for your entertainment news update and a little bit of Prince. Shout out to 84, When Doves Cry. Rest in peace to my purple 45 of this single. And, you know, April 21st, it will be 9 years since Prince has been gone. So, yeah, time is moving. Shout out to his royal purple badness. All right, y'all, it is time to get all up in the business, of course, with my guest and regular contributor here on KBLA Talk 1580 with my entertainment news update, Mr. Damon Haley. So we're going to talk about boycotts that actually work. We had the debate about whether or not boycotting Target, the method that people were taking as an approach, would work. And it seems as if Target might be learning the hard way. So since announcing that they would eliminate DEI initiatives to align with the current White House targets, Target has seen an average of 6.2% drop in weekly foot traffic over the last 8 weeks, a 3.1% Q4 sales decline, even during a holiday push, which, you know, if we're talking about the holiday and that would have been pre this initiative. So I don't know if that really counts and has really more to do with the economy, but it is noteworthy. And then there is a 5.7% drop in the week of March 17th alone, while Costco, who kept their DEI programs, saw a 5.2% growth. So it seems like that's not a coincidence. It might be a consequence. So, you know, Damon, let's talk about it. What do you think are some of the economic implications for a retailer like Target when cultural backlash actually sticks?
Yeah, well, the numbers don't lie. They're down, like I said, foot traffic, and then 3%. But when you talk about single digit decline, it's recuperable. You know, so I wouldn't say it's highly significant when we talk about 3%, 6%, 5%. Now, over a week it is, but still, if you just think about that in relation to, you know, like I said, 3%, that's 3 pennies. You know, 5%, that's a nickel. You know, 6% is a nickel and a penny. And so if you think of the dollar, so it is a loss. Is it sustainable? Now that everybody knows, how does people feel about the 3%? Because for me, I'm like, oh, that's bad, but I've seen worse. It's not falling off the table. It's not the $12 billion that people were reporting, say, last week.
But it's been 8 weeks, right? It's still early in it. You know, if it continues, it eventually adds up. No? I mean, do you think the numbers are enough for them to at least think about it? A reversal or a repositioning, or is this something that we're going to keep our eye on it, but it's in our rear view mirror?
You know, you have for one, Target's not alone. There's a lot more people, there's a lot more businesses, educational institutes, and all of that kind of stuff, all those type of businesses that are declining. So once again, we're targeting Target for whatever reason, because we love them the most of everybody. You know, that's why we love them the most. But it will have to be addressed, and that could be a marketing campaign. They're not going to say we're going back to DEI, because then they'll be the target of some big-time law firm and all that kind of stuff. So they can't say that. I know for a fact they've redefined some of the verbiage and wording. That's what I was hearing. I've talked to 2 educational institutes within the last 2 days because I was worried about people's titles, and they're working through what are the new titles. So I think a lot of the consumer goods are just working through the titles, but still doing the same thing. That's the way I think that Target or some of the other consumer companies will work on it. They're not going to get rid of, you know, programs that they don't have to. So right now, they're just protecting themselves. That's why all of them came out and said, we're protecting ourselves. They can't do what Trump's doing, but they have to follow that lead. So they'll make
to find the space where they can play in, actually.
Yeah, it's just redefining, like, how are we going to utilize this given this mandate? Like today, there's a 34% tariff on goods coming out of Taiwan.
Someone, Morris Phillip in the chat just said, you know what's significant? Trump's tariffs at the same time. So
put me out of business.
How much do you think that is also impacting things like, and you were talking about how it's impacting your business. Mm-hmm. Are we starting to see across the board price creep?
Yes. So taxes just went up April 1st here in LA. So my accountant hit me and was like, hey, adjust your POS system for the increase. And I'm like, ooh, I ate money yesterday. I have to still pay the rate. So everything's growing up. Everything's blowing up. He promised this guy promised prices would go down, and it ain't even happening. So you're right. So I think the Lip Bar came out. The young lady that does Ms. Alyssa came out and said, hey, my stuff comes from Tehran. When I saw 34%, I wasn't thinking of me personally, but then I look at her and I'm like, whoa, 34, that's to go from $1 to $1.34? That's a lot.
That's significant.
I know it went 10% up for me in January and then 10% in February. And I'm like, somebody build me a factory here in the U.S. So that all has a lot to do with anything coming from Asia. So that'll make the prices higher, and you're searching, and then you already have some beef, right? So you're like, wow, maybe I should lay off of that. So I think it's a lot of things going, but hey, give it to all the people that said they're going to do a boycott. I don't know if from a boycott it's going to make its way back to the way it was. There has to be some other type of compromise or some other type of communication that all of these companies need to do, with maybe Target if they choose to take a lead on it. But I just don't think it'll go back to where it was in November and December with these DEI initiatives.
Listen, when we come forward, I want to ask you if you think that with the tariffs, and we don't know how long that will last, and as you pointed out, shifting buying patterns, will we see a change in consumer behavior that it will not be able to be corrected because of it? We'll get into that on the other side. You're locked in with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're riding with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caspvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help. At Providence, health equity is the foundation of our community health initiatives, ensuring care reaches those who need it most. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in America. African Americans face a higher risk of life-threatening issues like hypertension, the #1 cause of stroke. 55% of Black adults have high blood pressure. The good news is 80% of heart disease is preventable with healthy lifestyle changes and patient-centered care provided by the Providence Heart and Vascular Institute. From routine screenings to advanced procedures, Providence provides comprehensive care for the heart conditions that overly impact our community by ensuring patients receive treatments tailored to their needs. Let's stop the trend of being 30% more likely to die from heart-related problems. Take charge of your heart health with world-class cardiologists who deliver the compassionate care you deserve. Visit providence.org/SoCalHeart. That's providence.org/SoCalHeart to request an appointment.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back in. You were locked in with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. Now, I am joined by Damon Haley, business strategist, business owner. And before we paused a second ago, I asked you a question about consumer behavior with the tariffs, with all of these things that are taking place, boycotts. Do you think that the behavior, the changes that we are seeing take place, is something that we can rebound from, or will this become, to some capacity, the new normal?
The rhythm at which these tariffs are coming and some of the other movements with not only states and governors, but also just the things out of Washington, D.C., this may just very well be the new normal. And I'm a business owner. I stay close to supply side and demand, pricing, et cetera, and I talk to other business owners as well. And it's going to be tough other than food. People have to eat. And I see prices creeping on food, and that tends to be okay. But everything...
Is it? I mean, shrinkflation, we've talked about that before, how, they won't raise the price, but the product size is smaller. So
yeah, I'm looking at traffic, and so when I look at the traffic, and I ask more questions too. Hey, how's things are going with you? How's I walk plazas because I can park and get. Hey, how's everything going with you? So I tend to do that to get a pulse, and so I think that services, so it might be more DIY scenario. So your services, your premium and luxury services in your day to day may go away. I do see less in Target parking lots in addition to Rouse, Vons, et cetera. So I think for now, we've been shocked right now over the first quarter of this year with the new administration. And so people just don't know what to do or what to think. But I do think we're spending less.
Yeah, facts. Andy, you look like you had, no, you're good? Okay. So on that note, do you think that we're saying that there's a shift in consumer behavior? We don't know what's happening with this administration. We won't talk about the R word, but as we're recession, Andy's like, what is she talking about? As we're heading into the summer, second quarter, traditionally where things start to pick up, do you see that being impacted by some of the things coming down the pike? Because traditionally, at least for summer, we kind of put our cares a little bit to the side.
Yeah, I think we'll spend more. I think there'll be a little more concern. The travel industry could very well be affected, because, I and my wife do a fair amount of travel, and travel is going up a bit, and it might be harder to navigate in places where they want to show the Americans that we have muscle too, like our current administration is doing. But I do think it'll be an uptick, but I still see people being very, very concerned. Like, I talk to a lot of parents about graduation, and the cost of education is out of control, so to speak, with very little help, easement grants, DEI grants, and all that stuff. I talked to a young black kid about, I can't go, I can't go to where he wants to go because the affordability and scholarships going away and stuff. So there's a shrinkage of money out there that was with us last year at this time.
Well, where is that money going, though?
It's being frozen. It's probably going to some of the new administration's friends to do defense and buy a bunch of cars, things like that. But that isn't going development for a future people, not a current person.
Yeah.
But, development isn't stopping. Housing isn't stopping. So if I'm a young person or a young person like me, I'm thinking very carefully about where am I investing and where am I spending time and where's the growth coming in the next 3, 5, 7 years that I wasn't thinking about this time last year.
Facts, big facts. So kind of switching gears now, we're talking about success, the impacts of it and choices. Ja Morant, it might feel like deja vu, but Ja Morant is once again causing some headlines. TMZ reports that the NBA is investigating a hand gesture he made during last night's game. with fans alleging it looked like a gun motion. Kind of did, a little bit. We all remember the last 2 gun-related incidents that cost Ja an 8-game suspension and then a 25-game suspension in 2023. After that, he came back. He was injured. He was out. Was supposed to come back better than ever, refreshed, renewed. And at that time, the league said any additional violations would be taken seriously. The video's gone viral, of course. And while the clip is short, people are already debating whether it was playful, cultural, or straight up problematic. And NBA sources say they're reviewing the footage and statements, and if true, Ja could face fines, suspensions, and mandatory intervention. Oh, by the way, we are just about a week and a half, 2 weeks out from the playoffs. So are we taking this too seriously, even in spite of what happened? Because we know how in the heat of the moment in a game, athletes respond. We talk about, going to war. We make war references. We talk about people being snipers, killers, and shooters on the court or on the field. Are we doing too much in focusing on Ja? Because to my knowledge, we haven't heard anything about him away from the court since those incidents took place. So is this just too much scrutiny?
No, it's nothing wrong with taking a look at it. The NBA is always very poised at how they position. They do a great job of saying, we're looking at it. They're not good, not bad. We're neutral. We're taking a look at it. I took a look at it, and I would say if I was the general manager of the Memphis Grizzlies, I would be having a talk with Ja and just say, hey, you just can't do things like that. Now, I know it could be instinctual. We all do instinctual stuff, play gun and all that kind of stuff. But that's been out loud since the Miami Hurricanes in the 80s, when they used to pretend to shoot down, all that kind of stuff. So that's been around for a while. But I do think that the Memphis Grizzlies have had a great year. Ja has had a good year, but we don't know it because he's frozen out. He doesn't get any ESPN highlights, no Fox. He gets absolutely no.
He was getting commercials before. He was supposedly the next one.
Yes.
It's all about Ant Edwards now.
And Ja is right there. I mean, Ant's cool, Olympics, all that. Ja could have made Olympics and all of that. So he has to choose to be careful. But the scrutiny on this one, you take a look at it and we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if they slapped him on the wrist. I wouldn't be surprised if they came up with nothing. But he does not – hopefully he's getting coaching. He's getting some training. He's getting some therapy, and I mean that in a light way, to say you just can't do that. Figure out different things in order to express yourself, when you get hyped up or whatever,
Forrest Harris in the chat says, after Elon threw up a Nazi sign and they didn't say anything, that means everything goes, right?
The richest man in the world and the relationship he has with the most powerful dude in the free nation, in terms of, the administrative lead, he can do it. And I lost a lot of, me personally, I lost a lot of respect for a lot of people that didn't say anything about that. But Ja, he works for somebody. He works for a league. And nobody penalized Elon Musk. But people can have the ability to penalize Ja.
I think Elon is, slowly, Tesla stock is taking a hit lower than it's been in quite some time. I think down maybe 16%. Slowly but surely, we'll see what happens with that.
That's how unhappy people were, 16%. A dime, a nickel, and a penny. That once again. Let's see it plummet. See, if people didn't really like it, it would be plummeting. He might be too big and untouchable for him to fail at this point because too many people got money wrapped up in him.
Interesting.
People ain't got dough wrapped up in Ja.
Morris Phillips in the chat says black athletes are always held to a different standard.
What else is new?
I mean that is true, but at the same time, culturally, is that because white athletes maybe move differently? Are we unaware of maybe some of the things that might be problematic that they might do or put out there that we don't recognize because it's not standard in our culture? Andy, I see you.
Let's not put it on culture.
I'm just okay.
Only because Ja is the only one.
I'm not saying I'm not talking about Ja, but I'm just saying, like, there might be a white player doing something that might be problematic that we aren't aware of because we aren't in the mix like that, whether by age, whether by race, or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
that could play a part in it too.
That can be very well true. I mean, we know that, but the culture that reports and is in power doesn't get the degree at which Ja was jousting or playing, because they don't come. Like, if somebody did that to me, I'm like, oh, that's nothing. It's like it's a difference between a gang and a gang of people.
Facts.
You know, that kind of thing. So I think that he should have been, putting it back on him. He should be more cautious, period.
Well, listen, it is Wednesday, hump day, and I want to thank you, Damon Haley, for clocking in. Let the people know where they can find you at.
Oh, yeah, Damon Haley on all social media channels as well as the website. Hit me up. Philip Morris, hit me.
That's how we do on Wednesday. Thought-provoking, headline-pulling, and just messy enough to keep the group chat active. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you are tapped in each and every Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. for your front row seat to the culture. Up next, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Maybe you're just like my mother. She's never satisfied. Why do we scream at each other?
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown is suing the U.S. Health Department over 11